All right, cool. Let's get started. Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming along today to our Human-Centered Design Q&A webinar. Kim and I are super excited to have you here, especially those of you who are live. It's awesome to have your energy. It gets us really excited to see you here. So thanks for coming along. And everyone watching the recording, hello to you as well. And thanks for showing interest in human-centered design. So in today's webinar, we're going to be answering questions about human-centered design. But before we get into it, I thought I would just share an overview of what human-centered design is. So for those of you who are new to it or don't know much about it, just to give you that understanding. So human-centered design is all around putting your user or the person that you're designing for at the heart of your solution. So every decision that you make, the solution that you create, and everything that you do in your project is about the learner and creating something that you know will be fit for purpose for them. So we see human-centered design in a way where the users are the levers for change. So if you want to make an impact and you want to change behavior and meet your project goal, you really need to understand the people that you want to change. So behavior change is hard, and a way to make it a little bit easier is to understand the people that you need to change. Do you have anything else you would like to share around human-centered design, Kim?
I would say that I don't think it's that hard if you take a human-centered approach. That's all I'll say for now. It'll probably be revealed as you go on.
I like it. So some of you are here to learn about human-centered design and others are here to hear about the cohort. So we have a human-centered design cohort starting this upcoming Monday, which is very exciting. So for those of you who sign up for that, you get our human-centered design playbook. So it takes you through the step-by-step process that we take to apply human-centered design to our projects. You get our human-centered design online course. So you get to see role plays, you get insights, case studies, and a bunch of value to help you apply human-centered design to your projects. You get 2 hours of personal coaching with either myself or Kim, and you get to attend 4 2-hour group coaching sessions. So you get to learn from others in your cohort, ask questions, and practice using human-centered design and discussing how it's going to work for you. So very exciting. Kim is going to post the link, I think, to the cohort if you're interested.
I will do that now. Thank you for the prompt. I was listening and very excited by what you were saying.
So I guess let's get into it. Kim is going to ask some questions and we're going to share our insight, but also because you're here live, we would love to hear from you. So if you've got any questions that you would like to ask, like, we're here for you and it's about you. So please ask them. So I guess before you get into the questions, does anyone have anything that they would like to ask to kick off the session?
This is where I can sing the elevator music. Nah, hey, Hart's got a question. Thanks for unmuting, buddy.
Yeah. Just so changing behavior, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but how do you go about, what are the tools that you use, or what's the process that you use for going about changing the behavior?
So for us, it's using instructional design. So we have a process that we use that it's a human-centered design, instructional design process. So that it could be, I could get very detailed and go through every single step, but I guess it's a process that we follow to discover what behavior change a client is wanting to see, or a team or a company. And once we understand what behavior change is that they're looking for, we apply human-centered design and use instructional design techniques to help us to change behavior. So there's like motivational techniques that we use. The human-centered design techniques are like we speak to the users and we find out more about them and what they would need to change their behavior. And then we create a solution that's based on the tools that we've used to better understand them and to motivate. Do you have anything to add to that, Kim?
Yeah, I think if it is something that you're trying to understand more about, the questions you probably want to ask stakeholders or clients is what sort of understanding or analysis has been done to understand that this is the true problem that exists. And sometimes organizations, teams within organizations that you're working with have done analysis and they've got data, like HR might have data that says we have this many complaints, or the sales team might say our sales have dropped significantly in this amount of period, and we've identified that this is the cause of that. So you want to get evidence to understand a bit more around why the problem exists in the first place. Now, if they don't have that evidence, sometimes there might be a legislation change, or it's a reactive response to something that's happened. And they're like, oh my God, we need to train everyone on this in response to X. Then it's probably not behavior change focused. So therefore you want to say, right, well, this has happened. We don't want it to happen again. Let's do some activities, which we'll probably go through in the rest of the webinar, around understanding why did it happen in the first place, a question to ask. If it didn't happen again, how might we prevent that? So you really want to understand the true problem. That's how you get tangible actions and decisions that you can focus on in your training solution, the content that you create. And those actions and decisions are what change behavior. Information doesn't change behavior. Satisfied for now with that response, Ahart? Thumbs up or?
No, it's good. Thank you very much.
Cool. All right. So Hannah, we do have questions that came through from people that can't make the live one, and then we'll jump back into live people as well. So some of the questions that are coming, just to build that anticipation and excitement, is how to apply human-centered learning in a corporate setting, how to deal with conscious and subconscious biases while writing a learner-centered design scenario, and tools for building trust with SMEs and stakeholders. So they are coming up, but a question from the audience that has been preloaded to us, Hannah, is what type of training is the human-centered design approach best suited to?
Well, I think that all types of training are suited to human-centered design. I think any project or situation where you're trying to change human behavior or you're training humans, human-centered design will help you, because in all situations, understanding the person that you're designing for is so important. If you want to design training that actually makes a difference, you need to understand that person. So I personally, and I don't think we've come across in our team any type of training where we've thought human-centered design wouldn't work. So we're yet to come across that situation yet, because I think we're designing for humans, so we should be understanding them.
I agree. Why is it important to take a human-centered approach? You did touch on it in the beginning, but maybe you have a story or something that shares a practical win as a result of taking a human-centered before and after.
I think it's just so important. I can't imagine now doing it or creating a training course without it. I think of a situation in the past that I've had where we worked on a project that didn't get the results that we wanted. So it was something that we launched to an organization, and it was what we wanted them to do. So we had this idea of what we wanted employees to do differently, but we actually didn't seek to understand what the experience was like for them and what the reason was behind why they weren't doing that thing. So I think that was a time where I thought training is so hard. Why are we not able to influence, and why are we not able to make a difference? And I remember thinking that back then. And it was because we didn't go out and ask them. And I remember we had a feedback session with this group, and they didn't find the training valuable. And for me, it was super overwhelming, because I was like, oh my God, I've never actually spoken to the people that we're designing for. So it was stressful, and they were saying all this stuff, but it helped me realize that you really need to include them in the design process, because you can think that you're creating something really great, but really it's not adding value to them, or it's not something they need, or it's not addressing a problem of theirs. So that was a really big eye-opener for me around the importance of using human-centered design. And I think as a practitioner, being open to the fact that you don't have all the answers. I think back in the day, I used to think like, I know what they should be doing and I know what we should be training them on, but it's not the case. Like, they will know what they need to do something differently. So I guess that's my experience of when it really hit, where I was like, okay, something has to change.
What was the change? What do you do now as a result of that?
So we use human-centered design. So we make sure that whatever goal that we're trying to solve, that we interact with the end users. We ask them why they're not doing that behavior now, and it potentially could be a motivation thing. So in the past, we might have thought they don't have the skills or they don't have the knowledge to know how to do it. But if you speak to the learners or the end users that you're designing for, they might say, we know how to do it, but like, we don't have time for that. We have all this other stuff going on. Or it could be, it's not that we have bad customer service. It's the fact that our computer system is so slow. Like, I'm on the phone to the customer and it takes 10 minutes to load one screen. So the problem isn't, I don't know how to provide good customer service. It's the fact that we need a faster system. So what we make sure we do now is we speak to the people involved, and we don't just run off and design something that we think is the answer. And it's really nice as a designer because you feel like you're solving the right problem. You know that you've discovered what's actually playing out, and you have that confidence that when you release it, you know it's going to have an impact because you've done that pre-work and discovery.
Yeah. And I just say some of the activities that help there is like a user interview. So you can go and speak to people that do it at the moment and find out those insights that Hannah shared. You can go and watch people do the job or observe them through a video interacting with something to try and pick up, why is this broken, or why is it perceived to be not working now? There's quite a few activities. What I'm going to do is just jump in and share. We have a YouTube playlist that shares, Hannah talks you through a lot of the activities that we do. I'm just going to put that in the chat. It'll be in the link of the description for the people watching the recording. That playlist has the activities that we run, and we'll give you more contextual, practical takeaways to build your capability. How do you apply human-centered design in a corporate setting?
I'll let you answer that one, Kim, because I feel like I've always applied it in a corporate setting. So okay. Do you have any other experience?
I think first of all, I'd just say, don't get limited by corporate setting or the context, right? If our role as an instructional designer is to be a problem solver, then we just need problem solving skills and capabilities, and it doesn't matter where they're applied to. So you get a lot, I'm from education, I'm from higher education, I don't know how to do this in corporate. Or you get corporate people going to education sector and they're like, I don't know how to do it in that sector. The context doesn't matter. At the end of the day, as an instructional designer, your responsibility is to be curious and to facilitate a problem solving process. So if you have that mindset, these things kind of free you up to just do your job better. In terms of tangible stuff, like there are things around how you can facilitate workshops. So we have, if you look at you can get the free preview to the online course. It's called a creative conversation. That's the #1 conversation we have with our stakeholders. And by holding that conversation, you identify what is the true problem. Why are we even here to solve a training issue? That's the kind of meeting you want to facilitate with key stakeholders. Anyone that might say no along the line of the project, the budget people, the SMEs, subject matter experts, learners, executives, your HR team, whoever has engaged you at that time to help them solve a problem. So that's the first kind of conversation that you want to have to understand, what am I truly trying to be doing here? That's the first thing I'd say in terms of applying it and the part of your process to facilitate that problem solving, and then jump into our human-centered design playlist and figure out which activities, which bits of the process do I need for my next steps. And you'll adapt on the go. Do you want to add anything to that, Hannah? Otherwise, I'll go to the audience and see if I live.
No, I think that's good. I think it's like, even as you were speaking, I'm sort of realizing it doesn't matter what setting you're in, like you're always designing for a learner. So as instructional designers, we just need to be open to whatever setting we're designing in and understanding that specific audience group that we're designing for. So yeah, I agree with you. Don't get caught up on the context of like whether it's educational or corporate. It's all about the learner.
Yeah, beautiful. We've had a request for getting that free preview for the creative conversation. The link is now in the description. If you just sign in there, you'll get that first video that is a really critical part of starting your instructional design process. All right, humans that are with us live, questions in the chat or unmute yourself and ask us away.
Hello, this
Hey.
is Zainab here.
Hi.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, my inbuilt camera doesn't work.
All good.
I previously popped up a question before the webinar about how can we solve for accessibility through human-centered approach. And I know since I'm learning UX design right now, that there's the whole research process at first and then design and then so on, and it goes on. But is there like any tips other than, of course, asking the as the shareholders what like who the employees are, and for example what kind of cases there are and so on? Like, is there a way to like showcase or add accessibility options like throughout the instructional design work?
Yeah. You go.
Yeah. Do you want to say something, Kim?
No, you go.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, because accessibility is so important, and it is something us as instructional designers, I think, need to get better at. And it's something that's sort of coming to the forefront recently. And I think using human-centered design, you have a mindset where you're always thinking about the learner as you're designing. And I think that really helps with accessibility. So every time, for example, if I'm storyboarding a screen for an e-learning course, with my human-centered design mindset, I'm always thinking, okay, this activity that I'm designing, are the people that I'm designing for, which could be a range of people, they could be people that are hearing impaired, or they might be vision impaired. I always think, would everyone be able to do this activity and get the value that I'm trying to give from it? So for example, if I had a audio clip and that was the way I wanted to present something through my human-centered design mindset, I'd be thinking, is everyone going to be able to listen to this? Maybe they're hearing impaired, or maybe they don't have access to headphones and they're in a noisy office, for example. So then I say, okay, I need to have a transcript because I need to make sure that everyone has access to it. So I think from that perspective, it helps you to design things in an accessible way. But then there's also like following the guide and making sure and checking yourself to make sure that you are doing things in a way to make sure that everyone accesses it. But I think, yeah, human-centered design does help you with it.
Yeah, I'd say,
Thanks,
first of all, like, well done on the things that you're doing already are great skills and not always automatically done by people. So keep doing that, because your learners are already in a better position. So you have the right mindset, and you're doing the right things. The thing that normally an organization, if they are aware, will have data. Great place to start. As we as practitioners have a responsibility to keep understanding and learning and seeing what's coming up for people, like through our own research, to see new developments and what that plays out like out in the world. And it's good that you're doing the user experience course and that product world, because we go, oh, I never knew about that. How might that apply to my industry and the things that I'm working on? Another thing then is, when you talk about a human-centered approach, it's doing a continuous check-in. So you're prototyping, you're doing user testing. So if you think about when we are doing like e-learning, for example. First of all, we're asking the question up front. What considerations are we aware of for accessibility? And you have your checklist to begin with. Then what you do is you will, because this also covers things like diversity, inclusion, bias, that sort of stuff. So when we get to a point of a storyboard, for example, when you go out and user test and prototype, if you have a diverse group of people that are testing and giving you feedback, they help you shape a better solution that picks up on accessibility issues, picks up on inclusion or diversity challenges that you, or biases that you are not aware of that can be improved. So they may say, these photos are heavily whatever, or I could not tab through the course. And you don't need to have be living with a disability to want to use the tab key on your keyboard to progress through something like a website or an e-learning course. So someone might just go, I tab through everything because I don't always have my mouse, it's just broken at the moment, or I have no batteries, but I couldn't do the input text box because it didn't tab properly. So you're getting data. Sorry, I know I was talking about storyboard and now I've gone to a development feedback, but basically at each milestone that you're getting feedback on, make sure that you have a range of users to give you feedback. And you're in your head, you're saying, I want a user that's going to give me feedback from a screen reader perspective, from a, they don't have access to a mouse perspective. Another person's going to give me the lens of how is my language? How does my language make someone feel when they read this? So I think if you include that in your process, you can't be, and we as practitioners can't be expected to know all the answers and all the things we need to consider, but that's a great way for us to collect it and prepare it in advance for before it goes live.
Wow, that's great information. Thank you. I better start adding some notes to my instructional design folders.
Cool. Thanks for
Another
asking.
thing I thought of as well, I remember we discovered this recently, Kim, is a really great tip to discover accessibility for your course is to take your laptop, if you're designing e-learning, out into the sun, because sometimes a course can look good when you're in a dark room or you're inside, but if you take it out into other environments, it might be brighter light or bright sunshine, are the users able to like see the contrast differences? And that can be the color contrast checker that can help as well, which is like checking like, is the contrast enough for people to be able to see that? And yeah, how do different environments impact the look and feel of your course, and does that and still enable people to see what you've created?
Yeah, I think it is good. It's a good point. There's a couple of basics that you should always just do as a natural state as a developer or designer. And if you Google like basic UI tips and things like that, it will come up, but color contrast is a big one that you should just always make sure that you're meeting the standards. I'm going to put into the link into the description or chat. It's a color contrast checker tool that we use, and that is really effective because I know personally myself, for some reason, even sometimes I have to close this at the moment because if I leave that open, my screen is too bright and I actually have issues with my eyes. So I have to do the inversion. You guys turn into like X-ray vision. But so even doing that, but sometimes I need to do that on a white screen e-learning course and I can't read the text because the color contrast doesn't work for that tool.
Mm.
All right, in the chat now is that color contrast checker little tool. It's really good. Legit point. Thanks, Anab.
I love that.
Thanks to you. I was actually searching for color contrast like websites for more information about how to like deal with it.
Cool.
Oh, there you go.
Good on you.
Perfect timing.
All right, Hannah, I'm going to give the audience a chance to prepare another question. And while they are thinking about it or ready to unmute, can you please answer the question that we've got from the audience already, which is, they began their new role of instruction as an instructional designer 2 months ago. Fresh. Congratulations.
Exciting.
Welcome to the industry. So they're new. How do they go about learning human-centered design and getting experience in it?
So I would say our YouTube channel has so much, like, so we have a human-centered design playlist. Do you want to put that in the comments?
It's in
Kim?
the chat.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. So we have a human-centered design playlist, and there is so much content, so many videos where we talk you through the different activities and tools that you can use. And I think if you're new, like, don't put too much pressure on yourself to have to do everything and like follow the process perfectly and become a full-on human-centered designer. Because I think you can be a human-centered designer and just apply some element of human-centered design to your project. So if you're just learning, something that you could do is, say, a persona. So if you're creating a e-learning or training course, even if you don't have access to your learners, just take the time to step into their shoes and think, what would it be like to be them? What would their world be like? And create a persona so that you can empathize with them and just have that mindset. So front of mind, who am I designing for? What would the experience be like for them if they were completing this screen or doing this training experience? And I think even having that mindset and doing one small activity can really have a big impact and help you get into human-centered design for your projects. Don't put pressure on yourself, because you don't want to get overwhelmed, and it doesn't have to be hard. It actually makes things easier. But just, sometimes we might do one activity and we're like, that's given us the information we need, like we're good to go, and it has the impact.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't, to begin with, don't go beyond our YouTube playlist that is specifically for human-centered design in our industry.
Yeah.
Because if you work through that playlist, we talk about other resources in it. And at a time that is appropriate to you, you will then go and seek those further resources, because that's just in time based on your motivation, your needs. So that's human-centered to you. So start with the playlist, or if you want accountability, jump into the cohort or take the online course. And then someone else said, as a broke graduate student, how do you prepare to be a human-centered learning focused instructional designer? The answer is what we just said. There's so much available for free. We give out so much available for free. So YouTube playlist, human-centered design for instructional designers, that is your go-to to begin with. All right, audience humans, the 4D, oh no, you're only 2D, 3D, I guess. Who has a question? Otherwise we can continue with our list. You can put it in the chat or feel free to unmute. Thanks for your feedback. Appreciate that you're getting great information. Thanks for choosing to learn with us. All right, we'll go on to another question, but you guys can interrupt as we take each break. So Hannah, next question is how to deal with conscious and subconscious biases while writing a learner-centered design scenario.
Oh, that is a very good question. So I think the way that I do that is it's using human-centered design. So first of all, the best thing that I could do is to speak to the learners. So I think sometimes we can make assumptions around our learners and what we think would be best for them or what we think they would enjoy doing. So by running user interviews and meeting with the learners and understanding what their world is like, it helps you get rid of some of those biases. So I think what you can do is you can do so you do your user interviews. From that, you can create a persona. And as you're doing your user interviews, you don't want to try and make assumptions or judge. You just want to be really neutral and take down the facts. So everything that they tell you, you just want to write it down, keep it factual, do your best to not put your own story or your own perspective on it. And then when you're designing your learning, you're looking at those facts and looking at that persona and just focusing on that and making sure that you're not putting your own judgment on it. So because something we've learned with user interviews is that often you can respond. It's natural to respond to what someone says. So you might, for example, agree with them and be like nodding and like, yeah, like I fully get that. That makes sense. Where you don't want to do that because that's your biases coming in and it's your view of the world playing out on the data that you get. So what we do is that we keep really neutral, and we just like try not to have any reaction, record exactly what they say, and use that to create a course that works for them. So that has been the best way for me so far to deal with that. And I know that sometimes it is when it's your subconscious, you don't always know what's playing out. But I think by doing that, you can do your absolute best in that moment to try and not have those biases play out. What do you think, Kim?
I'll just say, like, we are throwing around quite a few terms like user interviews and personas and that. So if that's overwhelming you right now, just go to the, after this, our human-centered design playlist. All of those activities and how to do them are there. So just to clear your head on that. In terms of the conscious and subconscious biases, look, I think we have to accept that we all have them. Okay, so number one thing, we know that they're there. So it's about setting ourselves up with tools or strategies or parameters to minimize their impact on the actions and decisions that we make or take. So a couple of the things, this is what we teach in the cohort. So if you get a success statement, right, your project goal, always now we have co-created that with stakeholders and we're all aligned to that. So when things come up sporadically and we're like, oh, it'd be cool to put this in, and oh, like, I know this is going to help that person if I put that into the training, we can catch ourselves by going, well, if this is the success statement, how does that help me achieve the success statement? Does it? Yes or no? If it's no, sorry, it's a great idea, but not for this particular project. If yes, you've got to make sure it is really helping you do it, and how is it? And then take action from there. When you break down, the way we work is we've got the success statement, the overarching goal that we're achieving, and that allows us to understand the audience and also our learning objectives. So when we have really specific learning objectives that are focused on actions and decisions, it is very easy for us to understand what it looks like in the real world and what is the training activity, the training event that we need to create to solve that problem. So what does that look like in terms of, for example, a storyboard, right? Where the bias that can play out, whether we want it to or not, is if you actually, I'll grab it in a minute, but our storyboard template has a place on every screen for the learning objective. And we use that as an accountability mechanism to make sure that we are really focused on hitting that, and that any sentence, any idea, any instruction, if it's not aligned to the learning objective, it is removed. Or if it's not quite aligned, it's adapted to align. And I think when you have mechanisms such as almost like a little process or checklist that you're working through, that helps you minimize your own stories and the meaning and your own experiences, and also those from other people, because they're going to be sharing with you. You're the person putting it together, but you're going to have stakeholders that are going to have an opinion or a story or an experience as well. So when their bias comes in, we need to fact check. Is this a fact, an emotion, an assumption? And we need to align everything back to the fact. How do we do that? We align it to our success statement, or we align it to our learning objective. I will go and find that storyboard template for you now and put it into the chat.
I think another thing, Kim, as well, is to ask yourself when you're, for example, storyboarding, a good question is, what evidence do I have to support that? So that's like a really good question to ask yourself to keep yourself accountable. If you're adding information in, just saying, what evidence do I have to support that? Was it something brought up in an interview? Was it in the persona? Did the client mention that? And just make sure you have that evidence, because otherwise it's coming from your perspective or something in your head that you think they need that they may not.
Amazing. We'd be better humans if we applied this to our lives as well. All right. If anyone has a question, please just raise your hand maybe and let us know, or put something in the chat. Otherwise, or unmute. Thanks for the love. Thanks for the love. All right. I can't see anything. So Hannah, next question is tools for building trust with subject matter experts and stakeholders. So they've come to us as instructional designers for a service. but this person is looking for tips for building confidence and collaboration from the beginning of the relationship.
I'll let you do that one, Kim.
Ugh. All right.
That's a good one for you.
It's a good one for me. Okay. Building trust. Number one tip I have for you. If you are your authentic self in all situations, trust will exist. Trust exists when a person, also number two, trust exists when a person feels safe, and they feel safe through connection. So what might that look like? I think some things that you could do is just Google like rapport tips, for example, eye contact. Actually, I find eye contact difficult, like, because I'm like thinking, my eyes go everywhere. It doesn't mean I'm not listening, but just being aware of rapport tips, such as, are you listening to the person, or are you thinking of your response and then you're like spitting out a response that actually doesn't respond to what they've actually just said? You can do things like mirroring techniques, and that's about body language. So how you're sitting, are you open, are you closed, are you doing the same thing as the person, are you doing another thing that they might see as resistance? So there's those kind of little, I think they call them like neuro-linguistic programming tips. But number one is to be your authentic self, because if you're a good human being, rapport comes easily. So a couple of other things with SMEs and stakeholders is, for building that trust, is I think being very human-centered about it. So if you are understanding and showing empathy for them, then you can better build trust. So it's about maybe doing a persona on them to understand what are their motivations, what do they care about, and then how can you bring that into how you relate, communicate, respond, work with them, what you say, what you don't say, all that sort of stuff can come in, and also the things that you talk about and how you talk about it. So if we're talking to someone that is, we've got an instructional designer, wants to engage Bella Vista Studios, absolutely loves us, has been following our YouTube for a year, and just is like, guys, I'm so excited. We really want to have you on board. My boss wants to have a conversation about the budget, doesn't have the love for us. So then what we know is the boss, their motivation is money concerns. So we are going into a conversation, not about process, but we're going in to demonstrate value and in return on investment, that the money that they're going to spend is worthwhile. So if you take a human-centered approach, you're showing empathy to the people that you're communicating with, and then you're going to be better able to build trust and have a better relationship with them. What else have we got? Building confidence and collaboration. I think building confidence. Hannah, can you talk to that? Because I know that we've done work on that around the confidence stuff, and what I've said to you around going into, like in the past when you've developed skills, getting into workshops and stuff, what I've said to you around having confidence in yourself, and that, is that coming to you naturally to be?
Yeah. So I think in the past, I've been nervous around doing meetings like that because I've thought, will I have enough value to bring to them? And what if I don't know the answer to a question that they have and I can start doubting myself? But what I've learned over time is that everyone is on a journey with instructional design, and we all have different things that we can add, different value that we can bring. And I think also the different personalities and the types of people that we are, we can all bring something different to the table. So what I learned was to be comfortable and confident in the value that I can bring, and knowing that I can go into that situation as my authentic self, and I can share the value that I have, and not thinking like, oh, what would Kim say in this situation? Or like another instructional designer in the world, they would have said this and I didn't say that. I think realizing that like I have different value to bring, and focusing on that, and knowing that sometimes you don't have the answer. So as instructional designers, we don't know the answer to everything, and that's okay, because we have a process that we can use to help us get there. So it's just having that wording ready to say, okay, that's great. Thanks. I'm going to need some time to process that, and I'll get back to you. and then going back, trusting your process and knowing that you'll get there in the end, but you don't need to have it all straight away. And I think that's better than pretending that you have the answer or just trying to come up with something in the moment, because people will see that you're not being authentic or you're nervous or something's not quite right. So yeah, I've learned over time just to be authentic, and that's the best way to build confidence, I think.
I love it. Cool. All right, any other questions from you live humans that have showed up? Get what you need from us. It's not selfish, like it's human-centered. That's why we create the space for this. So please unmute and ask a question while you have access to us.
Guess I have another question.
Yeah.
In the EdTech space, obviously the students will be the center of this whole experience. But what if the teacher, like, the teacher's needs, on top of the students' needs? How do you navigate through that type of situation?
Yeah, so if you check out that free preview around the creative conversation, that is asking questions to get the perspectives of all stakeholders. So you got a teacher, you got students, and there'll be other people as well. So first of all, having the conversations to understand their needs and what's important to them. And when you co-create a goal together, then everyone's on the same page. So it makes it a lot easier. That's why we put so much emphasis on that, because it considers the perspective of the students, the learners, and also the key stakeholder that may engage you, or the teacher, as you're mentioning here. So when you co-create that together, everyone's on the same page. So it actually minimizes that issue for the rest of it. And I think when it sporadically does pop up throughout the rest of your process or your project or your initiative or the classroom is, and this is where your success statement is really useful to help minimize personal agenda. So you can literally just say, help me understand how that will help us achieve the success statement. You're pulling out the emotion, you're being very objective to help move you forward towards that end goal.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, pleasure. Anyone else while you're live here?
I guess this is the last question.
Okay.
I've already done like the becoming an instructional designer certificate thing through LinkedIn
Cool.
Learn, and I found it quite interesting and all of that. But the thing is, I didn't find a way to create a whole portfolio to apply for jobs and showcase what I could do, because I didn't know like what to create, and like there wasn't the right resources for me to create the portfolios. How would you suggest?
Yeah, I'm going to send a link to a video we have on creating portfolios that shares our tips. Have a look at that. That will help you decide topics and your process. The only thing that I'll share, I'm going to put it in the chat now in a second. The only thing I'll share is don't let it hinder you from applying for jobs, believing that it's a limiting belief. If you go out there thinking that you're not going to get a job or a contract because you don't have a portfolio. And when I started Bella Vista Studios, I did not have one. So I'm evidence that it can be done. And I do not believe you need a portfolio to get there. So I want you to be aware of that in terms of your belief system. But I will put a video that we've created on our recommendation for creating a portfolio.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Pleasure. Last question while I'm finding that video for the description. Oh, did someone just unmute? Or no, I'm delusional. Is Hannah, why is human-centered design not as high a priority as it should be, in this person's opinion, for instructional designers?
First of all, I love that they have that opinion, that they see the value in human-centered design. Woo! Yeah, that's awesome. I think, look, I'm not 100% sure, because like I see the value in it. So like I come from a perspective where I'm like, it's incredible. But if I put myself in the shoes of other instructional designers and apply instructional design to that question, I think we instructional designers have learnt to do instructional design in a certain way. So they've gone through their study, it might have been university, or they've learnt like different methodologies online. And I think human-centered design is just another way of doing it. So for a lot of people, changing can be hard, and it's not easy to just decide that you want to change. I think you need to understand how it's going to add value to your life. And I think the reason why Kim and I are so, well, our whole Belvista Studios team is so passionate about it is because that we've had the results and we've personally been impacted by the power of human-centered design. And that's why we want to share it with everyone out there, because we want to share our story because we want them to understand the impact it can have on their lives and how it can build their confidence as an instructional designer. So I think it's just around having access to human-centered design, taking the time to experiment and realizing for yourself how it can help you as a designer.
Yeah, we've come from a different, the industry has come from learning it a certain way and doing it for years, and you don't know what you don't know. Human-centered design has come from other industries, such as the product industry, where it's ingrained and that's how they do things. And as the world changes now, what we are seeing is that psychologists, change management, product management, marketing, they all use human-centered design or design thinking to some extent. And now we're all just becoming this ginormous problem-solving mechanism. And we will have to adopt that problem-solving mindset as well. Otherwise, graphic designers will take our jobs because they have the look and feel and they know how to solve problems effectively. So you got to be careful around that. And I think it's just they don't know what they don't know. But the other observation, and I don't know, like this is just someone's opinion and their observation. My observation is that whenever we get people into webinars like this and that are new to the industry, they always say to us, why are people not doing this? It just seems like you wouldn't do it any other way. So it's getting out there because the new people that are joining the industry from wherever they're coming from, or they're doing their own curiosity post their studies or entering the industry, are just naturally coming across human-centered design and going, this makes sense. Why would you not do it? So keep up. It's fantastic. It's a life skill. So I know that it's added a lot of value to my life. And if you love our content, it's because it is human-centered. We've taken that approach with it. All right, we're at time, Hannah.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming along, bringing the energy. It's been absolutely incredible to have you. Thanks for the awesome comments. For those of you who ask questions, I hope that it's added value to you. If you would like to really delve into human-centered design and learn the process, then sign up to our cohort. Starts on Monday. It's going to be absolutely incredible. We're so excited for it. And you can also check out our human-centered design YouTube playlist, so you can really start to get your head into human-centered design. But honestly, it's changed our life, and I hope that you have had some insight into the impact it's had on us, so you can see how it would impact you. But thank you everyone for coming along.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just say, actually, the people that go through that cohort, they're getting promotions, they work on more meaningful projects, higher budget projects, they change lives. Like the projects that they apply it, holy shit, they're changing. Like, for example, like rape survivors, like they are having an impact on hundreds of thousands of them in the US because they got to apply a human-centered approach to training that they were doing for law enforcement officers in the interview setting, so that they weren't perceived as a victim anymore, and that they were perceived and understood and empathized with as a human that has had something done wrong to them. So if that's the kind of place you want to be in, that's what human-centered design is about. So make sure you invest in yourself for that reason, if that's what you care for. All right, thank you. Very grateful that you choose to learn with us always, and have an awesome night and day from wherever you are in the world.
What's up, awesome human? Thank you on behalf of myself and the Belvista Studios team for continuously choosing to learn with us. We really appreciate it. If the tips and the insights and the context resonate with you and you want to take your skills to the next level, or you want to make your life way easier, you will love our Creator Hub. The Creator Hub is a place for people like you and us. Basically, it's the stuff that we use internally at Bella Vista Studios, and then we just share it publicly with you. The Creator Hub is created by instructional designers for instructional designers, and what you'll love there at the moment is we've got a quiz, could I be a better instructional designer, that has so much tips in the feedback if you're interested in human-centered design or just taking your skills to the next level in terms of the solutions you're creating and the problems you want to solve. But in there as well, aren't we cute? That's us. But we've got the coaching courses, freebies, give us gratitude, and also we've got some templates. And basically they're always around the lens of learning experience design, instructional design, and e-learning. So a human-centered design focus is very much what we're about at Bella Vista Studios. So putting your learners at the heart of a solution and creating something for their needs. So there's the human-centered design stuff, and then we've also got the business stuff. So this is the stuff they don't teach you about when you want to become a freelancer or a consultant in the instructional design world. So go check it out. The link is in the description. You can check out everything that is available for you. Thank you for choosing to learn with us. Continuously invest in your skills. You will be rewarded as an instructional designer. Share this stuff, share it with other people, because when we are better instructional designers, we create better solutions that create better humans, that create a better world. So we have a very important role, and I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Have an awesome day.